Right, we'll crack on here if you're good with that.
Good with it.
Cool. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Endava Shorts. I'm Joe Dunleavy, the head of innovation at Endava, and I'm delighted today to be joined by my colleague Justin Marcucci, our chief digital officer. How are you, Justin?
Good. How's it going, Joe?
Good, thank you. So in this episode, we're going to dig into the whole area of digital acceleration and trying to shed some light on this particular topic. So let's start off with a nice, easy one. What do you see as some of the fundamentals of digital acceleration?
It's a great question. Certainly a softball early on, so I appreciate it.
Nice, easy one for you.
Digital acceleration is really born out of what we saw failing when the world was approaching digitization in the digital transformation mindset. Right? Digital transformation is the way that people think about it. It's these big, long, monolithic, Leviathan-sized transformation exercises where you're going to take 18 months or 2 years and you're going to change everything there is to change about your business. It's really difficult to do that. It's difficult to make any decisions up front that are going to be relevant in 2 years' time or thereabouts. And it's a huge amount of risk and a huge amount of change for an organization to digest along the way. Digital acceleration is about achieving the same goals, but doing so by minimizing as much risk as you can, by minimizing the amount of time between a decision and the validation that that is the right decision. And in doing so, creating a far higher probability that the exercise is going to be successful. And so we developed digital acceleration around that mindset, and it's about taking a series of much smaller steps along the way to overall company digitization.
So what's your take on companies now always looking to have to be digital first? Is that something that's a post-pandemic thing or always been the case? And I'd love to get your take there.
I think organizations now all appreciate that it's essential that they're digital first. I mean, what we just went through over the course of the last couple of years was monumental. I mean, it was a global event. But what it did is it showed organizations, it showed companies that if they didn't have the flexibility in their day-to-day business operations or their business model to exist in a digital environment, they weren't going to be able to survive either this pandemic or who knows what happens in the future. It doesn't always have to be, fire and brimstone, but just the general change and fluctuation in the market. And so a digital first mentality, really what that's providing for you is flexibility. It's providing organizations the flexibility to pivot their experiences with their customers or their internal employees, as well as then be able to change and evolve much more rapidly the business models that are driving the revenue and success for the organization. So digital first is no longer a nice to have option. It's essential this day and age.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's just the nature of where we've come, and I don't think it'll ever go back that way either. So switching gears for a second then, where do you see the role of innovation and how it assists or hinders your digital acceleration approach?
Yeah, really good question. It's actually an interesting relationship. I don't think that innovation either helps or hinders digital acceleration, but I do think that innovation is the byproduct of digital acceleration, right? So what normally impacts an organization's tolerance for innovation is risk, right? Innovation over a big engagement, whether that's a big transformation exercise or otherwise, there's a lot of risk associated with that because you're by virtue of the word innovation, you're changing either how something works or how your experience is felt by your users. And so when you do that over a long development phase and a long design phase, you're investing much more money into it before you know whether it's going to be successful or not. And you're placing a much bigger bet at the end that it will be something that will drive the kind of business results you're looking for. Digital acceleration allows us, because we're taking a series of much smaller steps to achieve our goal, it allows us to, along the way, assess whether the risk associated with that innovation is worth it, is it functional, and is it going to drive the kind of output we're looking for. And it gives us a chance to course correct either the design of whatever we're going to be building from an experience standpoint or architecturally to minimize that risk. And so because we have so many more stopping points along the way and so many more checkpoints where we're both assessing it from our own experience, but also putting it in the hands of users to get their feedback, we're able to actually drive far more innovation because as we minimize that risk at each step, we're able to take that next set of chances, push something slightly further because we're confident that what we have is going to work. And so I think innovation, the value and the output of innovation is substantially higher when you use a digital acceleration approach to tackle big business problems.
Right. So where do you see the role of the consumer in digital acceleration? We've spoken quite a bit about it from maybe the company's perspective, providing the service. What about the consumer in all this?
So the consumer is essential in digital acceleration, and what we've seen is the evolution of customer expectation over the course of the last couple of years. Consumers are now far more tolerant of change in the way that they interact with the companies that they buy products or get services from, because they've been in this period of time where things have had to change so much. But I think what we've seen, because it's always an equation of effort and value, how much effort a user has to put into something, set against how much value they're getting out of that experience. And I think what we've seen is with the amount of change that's happened over the course of the last couple of years, customers are now far more tolerant of change in those interactions because they see that it provides direct improvement of their experiences. Ergo, provides more value from them at the end of the experience. And so it is essential that customers are brought in and participate in a digital acceleration exercise, and you do so by giving them a chance to try out new features as they're being designed and as they're being conceived, and bring them into that process. Somebody's always more likely to be supportive of something if they feel like they're a part of it, as opposed to it being kind of provided to them without any input.